All right, guys. So we got a video from Kingdom Reacts.
Finally did it, America. Team Think. We finally got some merch. I got the hoodies. I got the shirts, man. Just check the pinned comment. Get 10% off before February 1st. But imagine, as it pertains to this video, imagine if white people said, hey, we're going to have an all-white event. And if anybody black decides to walk in there, they quite literally make sure they get pushed out. What do you think the response would be? What do you think Black Lives Matter would be doing?
Memorial Day is a great holiday for bringing America.
So I think if that were to happen, the general consensus would be that they are white supremacists.
Americans together unless you decide to promote segregation while you do it.
Now, that is not to say that, black people doing the same thing or that they're black supremacists or anything like that. The only thing I'm saying is if it were white people doing it, the assumptions would be that they're white supremacists. You know what I'm saying?
A Black Lives Matter group in New York City threw a Memorial Day party and barred anyone who was not black from attending. This is what they said. Being intentional about being around black people is an act of resistance. This is an exclusive.
This is a little odd, right? Being intentional about being around black people is an act of resistance. What does that even mean? Now, the people who were behind this obviously didn't pay very much attention to the peaceful protests, all right? Because those protests included people from all backgrounds, not just black people. You know what I'm saying?
Being intentional about being around black people is an act of resistance. This is an exclusively black space, so if you do not identify as black and want to come because you love black people,
That just makes no sense
please
at all.
respect the space
Active resistance.
and do not come. Lisa Durden is a political commentator and
wow.
Black Lives Matter supporter. She joins us tonight. Lisa, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Good to see you again. You're doing well.
Thank you. I was confused by this because I...
Also, something else I want to point out, if this were, if someone came to Tucker Carlson and wanted to have an interview on his show that was in support of the peaceful protests, but not the division, not what this person here is trying to push for, not any of that, just people saying, you know, just people who were protesting for the end of police brutality. You know what I'm saying? Like, would he give that person a spotlight? That's the ultimate question. I don't think so.
I thought the whole point of Black Lives Matter, one of the points would be to speak out against singling people out on the basis of their race and punishing them.
And that is actually not true. I just, when I first heard him say that, I was like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't track with his history on Black Lives Matter. So I went back and watched a video from 2 years ago. All right. His stance on it was that basically what he's saying to her, you know what I'm saying? That it's an exclusive club, right? It's wanting to defund the police. It's wanting to abolish police completely, right? And all these other negative things. There was never anything that he said, oh, I thought this was supposed to be, for good things, for, supporting the police, right? For making things better. He didn't say any of that stuff, right?
For that, because you can't control what your race is, and yet they seem to be doing that. Explain that to me.
Like, you can't even come and support your black friends, right? They saying now if you're doing that, that's somehow a problem. If you come here just because you want to support black people, that's a form or whatever. But just a minute ago, there go, what have you done for a black person today, or something like that? I've seen in a video before. But you heard Tucker's pretty much his question. I thought was reasonable. Now let's listen to this response.
True,
Y'all
it
just
is a
tell me.
reasonable
Just tell
question.
me if you think it's appropriate. Just tell me.
Nothing wrong with that.
What your race is, and yet they seem to be doing that. Explain that to me.
What I say to that is boo, hoo, hoo. You white people are angry because you couldn't use your white privilege card to get invited to the Black Lives Matters All Black Memorial Day celebration. Wow. Let me contextualize that for you. Memorial Day was created
First of all, I don't want you to contextualize.
Oh, I need to contextualize it because Memorial Day was created by black former slaves in 1865 to honor those individuals who were Union soldiers who fought and died for our freedom. So Black Lives Matter, in that same vein, decided to get together with black folks.
Now, here's my perspective on that. Shouldn't anyone who wants to honor that, shouldn't they be allowed to participate in that? But instead, they're viewed as the enemy, right? That is not right. Okay? Just because you might share a bloodline, share a shade of color, share whatever else, does not mean you're in the same boat. It does not mean you support what they did. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. You know what I'm saying? So you are not the enemy. So you should not be treated like an enemy. All right?
I'm not going to let you filibuster past my question.
To make sure that black folks are celebrated for being murdered
I don't want
by
to shut this down. I don't want to shut.
So what's happening right now? I'm not saying anything that she's saying is wrong at all. That's not where I'm coming from. If I'm being honest, it all kind of was just jumbled, only because I'm distracted by the frustration of him asking, hey, don't you think this is pretty much against what you're promoting? And she just completely went to, you're white supremacists pretty much, and y'all just mad because y'all can use, I said white supremacists, I meant to say, you have white privilege. That's what I really meant to say. You have white privilege, and, you couldn't use that to get in here. Now y'all just crying and whining, yada, yada, yada. And now she's going into this whole, we've been oppressed. And just to sum it up, what I get from it, we've been oppressed, and we had to go through this and go through that. And I'm not in no way, shape, or form arguing that, black people, we didn't have to overcome nothing, come things in the past, obviously, right? But she's going into that whole bit when we're not there right now. That's not where we at with this. This is not him trying to shut you up either from you telling the truth or whatever.
He's just trying to have a discussion. I look at it seems like he's actually wanting to understand from her point of view, right? Why they are wanting this to be an exclusive thing. When ultimately, that's the biggest problem that most people have with this, is that, it's not equality because it's only for black people, right? And to that I say, it depends on who you ask, all right? If you were to find 10 people who all would go to a rally and say Black Lives Matter, right? You get them and you ask each person, what is the biggest issue in America today, right? And I guarantee you're going to get a lot of different answers. A lot of them. And you could even scale it up, get 100 people. And then you might get a few similar answers, but you're still going to get a lot of different answers. Each person thinks for themselves. Each person has their own beliefs, and they're only uniting on one principle, one fact, basically, that Black Lives Matter. That doesn't mean they're all going to go to some website like it's a cult, and they're all going to say, you have to support all of these things and require white people to do this and do that, and this is how you have to behave, or you're not allowed to come to the protest. That's not a thing. And if it is, then that's not a protest I would support. You know what I'm saying? that would be a cult. If it's a cult, I don't rock with it. If it's just people coming together to peacefully protest for something good, then it's perfectly fine. You know what I'm saying? That's it. That's in the Constitution. We're allowed to peacefully protest, to make our voices heard. Um, Also, another issue I think that doesn't really get talked about like at all is to have people define the terms that they're using. You know, because each person might say the same terms or slogans, but have complete different definitions of it. You know what I'm saying? So you really got to make that distinction. And I think that's where a lot of this confusion comes from. All right. It's just like the video I just watched, a little bit of it. It was a pretty long video. But Tucker Carlson was, throwing some shade at people for saying they support defund the police, right? But did you know that the definition of that depends on who you ask? Some people would say, yes, it means abolish the police. And then other people would say it's just about adding services to the police to help them do their jobs more efficiently. You know what I'm saying? That is something I could support. All right. It all depends on how it's used and if it's done in a way that makes sense. An example of where I could see that being beneficial, say they go to a call where someone is having a manic episode, right? They're running up and down the street with a knife. Cops get there. They're not trained in psychology. They don't know what's going on with this guy. The only thing they see is a crazy guy with a knife that's not listening to them. They shoot him dead. However, let's imagine now that they had a psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever it was, to be there to help guide them and then tell them, I think this is a guy that's had a bad reaction to medicine, or something traumatic has happened. Like, this guy does not know where he's at right now. So because he's not following your commands does not mean anything. Like, he doesn't know what's going on. All right. So I think then they would look for non-lethal means of controlling that person. All right. Where it would be much different if it was someone who was aware of their surroundings, who just didn't want to follow the commands of the officer. At that point, it's a much different scenario. You know what I'm saying?
Because the history, but you're just not you're doing what everybody does, man. Just go off the rails.
Make sure that black folks are celebrated for being murdered
I don't
by
want to shut this down. I don't want to shut this down, but I will. Okay. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. I just have a really simple question for you. If you don't like people excluding others on the basis of their race, and as a society we agree that that's bad. I agree it's bad, you agree it's bad.
Right.
Then why are you doing it? And why are you defending it?
Why are you saying no?
White folks crack me up all of a sudden when we want to have one day for black folks to focus on ourselves, but you've been having White Day forever. You don't say the words anymore because you know it's politically incorrect, but you've had an all-white Oscars, all these movies with all-white actors, movie after movie after movie.
And you know what pissed me off about black people? Because I'm black, I can say that. I love being black, the good and bad. But what pisses me off is why the hell are we constantly begging anybody? Oh, you don't have me at the Oscars. We need to protest. Forget that. Go make your own. What's so hard about us getting together in a room and going, you know what, we just going to put together, so we're going to get some trophies, we're going to create the meaning for this, we're going to create our own categories. Once a
This is true. I mean, it is a free country after all. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, uh, a lot of people complain about YouTube, right? And then I'm like, so make something better. Like, if you make something better, like, a lot of us would consider coming over there and making content on there as well. You know what I'm saying?
Here, we're going to get together. We're going to have a voting system that's put in place like this. Instead of doing that, guess what we doing? Oh, they won't let it, bro. Why are we?
Also, like, that's the first time I've heard about that. So that just makes no sense to me at all. Because I distinctly remember, the whole thing with Will Smith and Chris Rock at the Oscars. Everybody remember that? What color were they? Now, of course, any other time I've ever talked about that, I have said their race is irrelevant. That did not happen because of race. That happened because a man said something offensive about another man's wife. That's why that altercation took place. It was not because, oh, a black man said this, or look at what this black man is doing. He's not representing our race very well. He's not representing your race. He's representing his wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, call a spade a spade. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I look at it. And the other thing too, Chris Rock was one of the hosts of the show. And he had done that before. He was a host for the Oscars before. So how are you going to say black people ain't allowed at the Oscars? That doesn't make sense to me.
We just got to do better, man. I'm tired of I'm tired of asking for.
Even if that was the case, then put out a statement and say, look, the Oscars, certain people ain't allowed to go to it. And then anybody who doesn't support that will say, well, guess what? We'll just stop watching it then. And then do like he said, go make your own. Then everyone who didn't like the discrimination that went on at the other one, they would turn over and go to the other one. You know what I'm saying?
For handouts or asking somebody to. And no, I'm not saying y'all coming together and congregating as in one room as black people don't want to accomplish something that's wrong. I'm not saying that. It only became wrong to me when it became, kick all white people
exclusive.
Out. You know what I'm saying?
Right?
That's when it's like, huh?
Because it's supposed to be about unity.
With white cast over and over and over again. The Bachelorette, it took 11 seasons of a black Bachelorette. Okay. Are you serious?
It's hard to believe. I hope you're not speaking for anyone else. I hope there aren't a lot of people in this country who agree with you. Well, my name is Lisa Durden. I'm speaking for Lisa Durden. I just hope there aren't people watching who agree with you, because what you're saying is so hostile and separatist and crazy. It's such a basic violation of what I thought we all agreed on.
That right there is the main point that I wanted to get across, right? That's why I decided, like, you know what? I think I'm going to have to do a review of a couple of his videos. That line from Tucker right there. So we're going to go back because I don't want to get it wrong of what he just said.
Watching who agree with you, because what you're saying is so hostile and separatist and crazy.
So hostile and separatist. He's talking about divisive rhetoric. Okay? And to me, like, that is one of the biggest problems with Fox News. It is extremely divisive. Okay? They don't take a very nuanced approach to really anything, at least from what I can see. Everything is all one-sided. If it makes the conservatives look good, it'll be on the show. If it makes leftists look good, it will not be on the show, at least from what I can see. There may be some stuff, it may be a lot more. I can't really watch Fox News a lot of times because it it upsets me a lot to constantly hear division, division, division. Whatever we can do to alienate one group of people and say because you vaguely support things that these other people support, like you're bad, you're stupid, you're ignorant, you're this or you're that. We don't want to have anything to do with you. That's the rhetoric that I hear. I could be wrong. Hey, if I'm wrong, like show me some stuff that comes from Fox News that isn't divisive. And don't get me wrong, I would have the same argument against any platform. And I do have that argument quite a bit when it comes to TYT. In my opinion, TYT, they're equivalent just on the opposite side. You know what I'm saying? They are extremely divisive. Their entire thing is conservatives are bad, conservatives are stupid, they're racist, maniacs. And then you go to Fox News and you get pretty much the same rhetoric. It's just complete opposite direction. You know what I'm saying?
It's such a basic violation of what I thought we all agreed on, which is you don't attack people for things they can't control, namely their race.
It's not an attack. I'm stating the fact.
That is true.
People give weddings where they exclude children. It doesn't mean they don't like children. They don't know if your kids are going to be monsters and those kids are going to be well behaved.
No,
so in that same vein, Black Lives Matter decided to have one day where they didn't want white folks who were going to be off the rails. They don't know if you're going to be the ones behaved and for them or the ones who are there against them. So
if it turns out to be a problem, then you deal with that problem individually. You know what I'm saying? Like if you got someone causing a scene at that place, that is a teachable moment. That is a moment to where you could have someone whose their heart's in the right place, but maybe they just don't see things correctly, right? That's a good moment for you to bring that person up and say, why do you feel like this, right? You could possibly reach that person and get them to have a better understanding, a better perspective. Then they could walk away with more knowledge and understanding. Then when they go and see other people who were starting to follow in their footsteps, then maybe they could have that same talk with them. Like, oh, wait a minute. Now you thought this, this, and that, but that's not actually true. You know what I'm saying? So use that as teachable moments whenever someone is, as you say, not behaving properly or not coming in with the right amount of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean, so I really don't think, anything like this should be going on. All right. To me, this would be like a church saying, you have to be Christian or you can't come here. All right. That is complete opposite of what a church should be doing. So I think church has two main priorities, right? The biggest priority, though, is about reaching people who are not religious at all, right? Like maybe they don't know what to believe, they don't know what to think. Those are the people you would want to reach. So you should not turn that person away if they're seeking knowledge and understanding. So that is the way I look at it. You should not have, like, if you're aiming to accomplish anything, then the more people that is there to give their support, the better.
Imagine, white people coming together in a room and saying, we don't want no black people here. We don't know if they're going to be the behaved ones. We don't know if we got to keep our Do you not
Yeah,
hear what you're saying?
that would be awful. I
Do you
guarantee
not hear
you,
what you're saying?
awful.
Like,
If I heard someone saying that, you know what I would tell them? I don't want no part of it. None. Like, you guys go on, start your cult. Don't bring it around here because I don't want nothing to do with it. You know what I'm saying? And I hope your cult dies out quickly. We do not need any more cults going on. Because that's exactly what that type of rhetoric leads to. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being honest about it.
Let me just ask you a quick question.
Go right
Do
ahead.
you think it's racist to exclude people on the basis of their skin color?
I think it's racist when you've been excluding people for
Why don't
hundreds
you
and
answer my
hundreds and hundreds
question
of
and
years.
stop with your
and
silly
we're
lectures? I'm
forced-
asking you a
Oh, man. That was such an easy question that you should have been able to answer. You know what I'm saying? Yes, that is wrong. You should not exclude people based on their skin color. Simple. But she couldn't do that because then, like, her entire argument is now void because she's now, but she was not ever, I don't think she was ever going to be able to admit that. Like, I came here thinking that I was in the right, and you just showed me that I'm actually not. So now I'm just going to change the subject, basically. That's what just happened.
I hear what you're saying. Like,
Let me just ask you a quick question.
Go right
Do
ahead.
you think it's racist to exclude people on the basis of their skin color?
I think it's racist when you've been excluding people for
Why don't
hundreds
you
and
answer my
hundreds and hundreds
question
of
and
years.
stop with your
and
silly
we're
lectures? I'm
forced-
asking you a very
and
simple
we're forced
question.
to come together collectively to celebrate ourselves because you guys won't. You are the largest.
we don't need them to celebrate us. I celebrate us with my family all the time. I celebrate us without my family just being around us. And by us, I mean black people. Look, I fucking love being me. Everything about this skin tone. Everything. The good, the bad. Aunties like this. who
Ain't
just-
nothing wrong with that. Nothing.
I still love you. Still do. But I'm allowed to be frustrated, man. I'm allowed to critique. You know what I'm saying? Like this line of this gaslighting way of thinking. She's under this delusion that he's somehow anti, you know, the general the how do I say the positive how do I say intention, so to speak. But he's also like, look, man, look at the bullshit that you just
society. Let's be real here.
You
can't-
guys, I'm talking about what I thought we all believed. Let me ask you this. Do you think it would be fair if white people did come to a Black Lives Matter celebration?
They do all the time. When you look at Black Lives Matter,
do you use the same water fountain that they do?
And you see Black Lives Matter coming together collectively for different issues, you see people of all races. So we do accept them. This particular day, they said, stay your asses out. We want to celebrate today. We don't want anybody going against us.
Listen to how she phrases that. She phrases that in a combative tone. Stay your asses out. You are the problem. You see how that kind of translate there? You know what I'm saying? Come on now. Look, the people, no matter who it is, right? No matter what race they are, no matter what culture they come from, no matter what background they come from, if they're going to a Black Lives Matter protest, if they're wanting to go to whatever it is, just to say, I'm here to show my support, they're not the enemy.
And you can't celebrate if someone who doesn't look like you is around?
Yes, you can, but you can
You're
also
demented,
say, I don't want
actually.
to do it. It's a personal
You're
choice.
sick, and what you're saying is disgusting. And if you were a Nazi, I would say the same thing to you.
Luckily, I'm not a
because
Nazi.
what you're saying is indistinguishable from what they are saying, which is, I don't care your opinions, I don't care your views, your life experience, your intentions. All I care about is the way you look, something that you can't control. And on that basis alone, I'm judging you, and I'm hostile to you. That's the case you're making, and it's divisive and wrong. And it's amazing that you even have to say that out loud.
That it is. It is divisive and
believe you're
wrong.
making the case you're making.
Unfortunately, when you have a racist society like America, you force individuals to come together collectively to make sure that they have a voice. And
nice
that's
try.
unfortunate that the racism has caused people to come together
Yes, exactly what it
collectively.
looked like.
Let me ask you.
Like, listen, what you're saying, when she say black people being able to come together to be able to do something, I don't have no problem with that. You know what I'm saying? I don't have no problem with white people coming together. I don't have no problem with Hispanic people. I don't have no problem with Asian. I don't have no problem with any type of people, collective group coming together. I don't. I just don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you're not making it about that. Like you making it about so much more than what the basic questions are. It's like you're making it seem like he's just so against black people, or and that's not the case, man. That's not the case. You making it more than what it is. He's just asking you simple questions. If white people was doing this, could they get away with it? Oh, well, if we didn't have to go through it. I didn't ask you that. I didn't ask you that. I didn't ask for the history.
Right. That would not fly. You know what I'm saying? And as like he said, Black Lives Matter would be all over that. All right. They would. We know that. That going and doing something like that and alienating anyone who isn't, black, right? To alienate everyone else and look at them not even meaning it, but if you even have somewhat of a combative tone towards them, get your ass out of here. That's not sending a good message. All right? The message you should be sending is we have an agenda here to make things better. We need as many people to come together and let's figure out what we need to make things better. Whether it's voting for specific people or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it should be about unity, about making progress. All right. And having good discussions. That's another thing it should be about. When I watched the protests, a lot of it was riots. There's no doubt about that. But it wasn't all riots. There was a lot of protests that I watched that were people holding up signs. That were using their voices. They were saying, hands up, don't shoot. You know what I'm saying? And things like that. They weren't out there looting and destroying everything. At least not all of them. So, I just think you got to make that distinction. And Fox News was not about making that distinction. Fox News took the approach of, let's show all the negative, biased news coverage we can and say, look at what Black Lives Matter is doing. And so everyone you see that's saying Black Lives Matter, we're going to paint them with that same brush. You're a criminal, you're a looter, you're an arsonist, you're this and you're that. I could be wrong, but that was the impression I got whenever I watched Fox News talk about it. So I just turned it off. I was like, I can't, the division here is just uncontrolled. You know what I'm saying? If it's facts, then it's facts. Then it doesn't matter what anyone's feelings are about it. You know what I'm saying? It really don't, because it's fact at the end of the day. But if they're twisting the facts around to fit a narrative, then that's propaganda. All right? Especially if it's propaganda to where they have no one that's able to make their voices being heard and saying, hey, wait a minute, this isn't right. So there you go. All right. I'm going to play another video from him. Now, he did so good throughout the whole video, all the way until the last point, and then I was like, oh, why? Let's go ahead and get to that now.
No, man, I don't believe in the socialistic tactics of everybody just deserves equal outcome, regardless of the efforts or not that you put in. Nah, bro, if you ain't put in no work, bro, you sit your ass at home.
To get a job,
So I understand his point of view, right? That it's not about giving people handouts and saying you could just sit at home because you've been disadvantaged, right? And we're just going to give you everything you could ever want, right? That is not the answer. That is never going to happen, and it would never work even if they tried it. You know what I'm saying? But instead, what I think would be a better approach, instead of saying, let's give them a handout, right? What if we said, if you show us that you are willing to put in the work, you know, look at the movie Nothing to Lose. You know, to me, that movie spoke volumes about issues in society. All right. You know, it's something that I've talked about a few times. I'll briefly mention it again. Martin Lawrence decided to try and rob Nick Bean's character, not because Martin Lawrence is black. He did that because he was broke, because he was living in poverty. He was putting in the work, he was trying to find jobs. Nobody was hiring him. You know what I'm saying? He had starving kids at home. He had a landlord that was needing rent money. I mean, I'm not condoning it in any way, so don't take it that way. The only thing I'm saying is, when you catch people committing, you know, nonviolent crimes, because, you know, at a certain point, can't we stop saying, let's throw them in jail every single time? Can't we start to create programs that could help them get back on their feet? You know what I'm saying? Like, what would be the harm in that? I think there wouldn't be any harm. I think that would create a lot of positive changes. You know, because what happens to them when we throw them in jail? They're going to be around other criminals, and probably they're going to learn how to become better criminals so they don't get caught next time. You know, a lot of times I think what we're doing when we do that, we are creating lifetime criminals. Because when they get out, now what's their situation look like? They've been to prison, they now have a record, they now have, you know, been exposed to, you know, because like I've always said, it's not a guarantee, but it is very possible for you to become a product of your environment. So, you know, when you're in prison and you've been there for quite a while, you're going to adapt to that. You're not going to come out the same person as you were when you went in. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think a lot of times we're doing nothing but hurting society when we throw every single person in jail. You know, instead of saying, what can we do to help this person? Instead, we just throw them away like a piece of trash, when that's not always the case. Now, there's a lot of people who are in prison who just deserves to be there because they are just horrible, evil people. So that's not to say that every single person doesn't need to go to jail. There's a lot of people that do. There's also a lot of people who, you know, were just trying to get by, and you push someone up against the wall hard enough, and eventually they're going to look for a way out. And I think when it comes to those people, I think we should be a lot more understanding and help them overcome those obstacles before it gets to the point to where they're still coming back from it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the biggest issue right there. You know, Nick Beam at the end of the movie saw that Martin Lawrence had a skill but wasn't getting hired anywhere. So he said, "You know what? I'm going to recommend Martin Lawrence to get hired to be, to work with their security team." All right. I mean, that is what I'm saying. Um, and that is something. So here's another thing that irritates me is when we're always talking about, poverty rates, we're talking about uh, unemployment rates, we're talking about more jobs being created. We never hear about those jobs being easier to get for people who are disadvantaged. Disadvantaged being, living in poverty, because let's face it, a lot of the well paying jobs, they're going to expect their employees to come in looking a certain way, talking a certain way, right? So, in order to get that type of job, you need to have some help. You need to have someone explaining to you what's going to be required, how you need to, behave during the interview and all that kind of stuff. I've been through some horrible interviews. All right. Uh, and without being prepared for those types of interviews, like it was just a done deal. There was no way they were going to hire me, like at all. Um, I've had an interview where I was basically on trial. Is what basically happened. All right, to where it was like, uh, what happened at your last job? And I was just trying to talk to him and be honest with him. I was having trouble getting back and forth to work. Oh, why? What was going on? My car kept breaking down. He said, well, they hired you, not your car. Well, they kind of hired both of us. You know what I'm saying? I'm only as strong as my car is. Without my car, I can't get back and forth to work. All right. So, like, I don't know what else to tell you. Um, Now, if someone was there to help, prepare me for an interview like that, maybe things could have been different. Maybe not, but at least then I would have had a better chance. So ultimately, I think that's what's needed. We need agencies that would help people uh, overcome these types of obstacles, and not just black people, not just people in certain areas, like everyone who has difficulty making ends meet. Even for people that have a job, like let's say uh, you're not really able to make ends meet, you need a better paying job. I think you need help too. I think everyone who is willing to put the work in and make their lives better, but just keep getting rejected at every single turn, at some point, if we start helping those people, things would get a lot better. You know what I'm saying?
Everyone needs to contribute. That's the only way society works.
I don't know about that one. I think that if you're unwilling, that I don't know if you should receive money for that.
If you didn't want to go to class, if you were unwilling to go to class, should I still give you a good grade?
No. Yeah, like people definitely need a job and need to work.
Eliminating almost all air travel with high-speed rails. What's your thought on that?
I feel like it's kind of the same one. It's like I feel like 10 years is a little extreme for that.
I don't think it should be eliminated altogether. I think it's definitely it can be
more like impossible for that. You know what I'm saying? Uh, I've seen other countries that have that high speed rails, right? So let's just imagine for one city to build high speed rails across the entire city, like it would be astronomical. the price and the time it would take to build that. Okay. In 10 years, impossible. So, and that is the biggest problem that we have with this entire argument about climate change, right? What's the best answer? What is it that we all need to get behind and support, right? The problem is their goals are unrealistic, to say the least, right? The things they're asking for, or the things that they're demanding, are impossible. And on top of that, the reason why they're demanding such a high standard can't really be proven, in my opinion. The issue is that they're saying, oh, in 10 years, it'll be too late. How? How do you know that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to have to do a lot of explaining before we're all just going to jump on that bandwagon and say, that's our deadline. Yep, we agree. That's our deadline. Now we got to start doing stuff to change the situation, right? You're going to have to explain that in a way that it'll make sense to everybody without saying, we got a magic mirror. You know what I'm saying? Come on now.
An option, I think the more options we have, the better.
I think that's drastic. I haven't heard of that
Absolutely.
one yet.
Stand behind that statement 100%. The more options we have, the better. I did a video about this not too long ago, and what I was saying there was, if we could make clean energy a lot more affordable and easier for people to get, right? That doesn't involve credit checks, doesn't involve a huge down payment. I think because you would be bringing value to the table. You see what I'm saying? Because you would be using clean energy rather than dirty energy. All right. So you would be so I think that would be bringing value to the equation, because that is, one less gas guzzling car off the road. And that's without banning anything. And that's the direction I think we need to go. We're not banning fossil fuels. We're not banning gasoline cars. We're not banning anything. That's the biggest holdup right there. Because as soon as they hear that, they say, "No, you're not taking my sports car away." All right, and I don't think we have to. The people who are joyriding, all right, or driving muscle cars because they enjoy them, I don't think those are the biggest problems. I don't think those are an issue whatsoever. So I think the issue is, cars going back and forth to work every day. It is semi trucks. All right. If we could start converting a large number of those into clean energy, I think that would be all we need to do. They just need to make enough of them, make them safe, make them reliable, and make them so that the lower class and the bottom class could actually get those things. Instead of saying, "Oh, it's going to be $6,000 or $7,000 for you to get this car," they can't afford that. All right, so that means they have to continue driving their gas guzzling 1970s, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can't see that happening.
Yeah, me either. I mean, you know how many people use public transportation to get back and forth to work on a regular basis?
Because it's a necessity.
When I used to, work, we had a car. We would drive the car to the train station just to ride the train. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. I don't know if these things are possible. It sounds favorable, like homie said, but Some of these students might not be as lib as they think they are. At least they getting these facts and digesting them well. How about that?
That's drastic.
And that right there is what brought me to do this video in particular. I was already going to do a review of the other one. And then, I started watching this one. And when he said that, I was like, oh man, really? We had to do that? Maybe they're not as lib as they think they are. Why? That is division. Here's what I think has happened. All right. I think you have heard a lot of propaganda and divisive rhetoric that paints liberals as being stupid, naive, gullible, ignorant, all these other things. And so that's what you associate liberals to. So then you kind of build up a stigma about them already without ever getting a chance to hear them out. You know what I'm saying? I think most people who would have these types of arguments that, we need to take care of the environment, we need to be mass producing clean energy, over what we've had before. I know quite a few liberals, and I'm pretty sure they would see that as a hostile remark, as something that is, painting them in a negative light based on a vague term that doesn't really mean anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to get a lot more nuanced than just, oh, you're a liberal or you're a conservative. So I think you really shouldn't have any type of negative stigma built up just at hearing a vague description of how someone thinks, right? Or what their point of views might be. I think for each individual person, you should have a conversation with them and, ask them good questions and get a good sense of what kind of person they are. Then you can start to make assertions about their personality, right? But you have to do that first. I don't think it's ever okay to say, oh, you're a liberal, so that means you're this type of person, you're that type of person. How could you support this or that? Same thing for conservatives, same thing for Republicans, same thing for everybody. You should never be judging a person based on a vague term that they claim is their personality type. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what it is. It is a vague label. In the grand scheme of things, it does not mean anything. They could be liberal because they like liberty and justice for all. It could be just as simple as that. I like Republicans because my dad was Republican. Oh, so that means you like this? No, I don't like that. My dad liked that. I didn't like that. So you like that? Nope, I don't like that either. So you're actually a liberal? Yes, I side more with liberals. I just say I'm Republican because I like how it sounds, and my dad was Republican. You know what I'm saying? So you really don't know unless you start asking the questions, right? Why are you saying that you're whatever it is that you support? All right. And like I said before, you also have to get them to define whatever terms they're using, because each person might define things differently.
I haven't heard of that one yet.
Yeah, I can't see that happening either, honestly.
We've come so far to get to this point where we are right now with using these resources, and to say, oh, we have to get rid of it in 10 years seems a little too much to me.
Who's going to pay for all of it? Who's going to offset the trillions of dollar cost that it would be?
Right. I don't know.
Okay.
Nobody knows.
Okay.
Like, it's kind of like, who's really going to pay? I don't, like...
That would go
Based on what you've
taxpayers.
heard from these, does it change your perception of the plan at all?
Yeah, a lot.
Sometimes you need to take extreme measures to save the environment, but I don't think that is like
I think it's a bit too extreme.
It doesn't sound like something I would be behind.
I don't agree with us having to, take away flying in the air. I don't agree with, taking away coal and things like that. And I don't agree with everyone getting money for doing nothing.
I'm Kevin Phillips with Campus Reform. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to donate to help us make more videos just like that, you can click right here. And if you want to
I will leave the link in the description for you all to do that. Y'all know y'all got to go support the original creator. But hey, man, somebody, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's the conservatives were showing that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Someone just don't, you know what I mean? I mean, it sounds good theoretically, but when you start putting it into practice, man, unfortunately, you realize some of these resources are things that we need to function on a regular basis. And then also, man, I really salute that kid that said if you ain't gonna contribute, you ain't getting nothing. I definitely believe that too, man. Like, how you gonna sit there and be eating?
I agree with that.
You know, you don't even contribute to the hunt whatsoever. We definitely got to go to the comments on this one. See what we got, y'all. Let's see what we got. These kids are conservatives. They just don't know it yet. Boom. What was I just saying? Give these kids some.
See, I disagree with that sentiment. They're conservatives. They just don't know it. You're basically taking everyone who is opposite of that and you're bursting their bubbles. You know what I'm saying? You're basically saying everyone who claims to be liberal, like, you cannot have a decent, intelligent conversation with anybody. All right? I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. Hopefully they would see the same argument for someone saying that about conservatives, and hopefully they would say the same thing. You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't judge people based on a vague description of their belief systems. And to take it even further than that, the title is actually not correct either. Because the title says, these libs advocate for things they also protest against. So here's the thing. You can protest for climate change and climate action while also acknowledging the fact that relying on fossil fuels or whatever else it is a necessity to keep the planet functioning. You know what I'm saying? So those two can work together. It's when you have someone who is saying, no, the only option is to ban every type of energy that is not clean. That would be when I could see that title being applicable. You know, these were some great videos. I loved seeing what his perspective on some of these issues are. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Did I get anything wrong? If I did, feel free to put in the comments and let me know. You know what I'm saying? I do not mind being challenged at all. I do not care to be challenged. In fact, I encourage it. I think when someone is being challenged on something they said, that creates opportunities. So the way I look at it is, that is a possible bridge that is being built to a path of understanding. All right. So anytime those bridges can start to go up, at least the possibility of it, then that's a good thing. So that's why I say I encourage being challenged. You know, I do not mind that whatsoever. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people disagree. You know, I will try and respect you for your opinion. All I ask is I get the same in return. If we cannot come to an understanding, then we'll just agree to disagree and move on. You know what I'm saying? But at least try it and have that as a possibility to say, maybe I will not agree with you, but at the end of the day, maybe I could at least understand that from your perspective, that the way you feel makes sense. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I look at it. Y'all let me know if you disagree with that. All right. That's it for now, y'all.